Well, we're here for the first time this year at the CCA Workbench. Dave, we're talking about rigs and techniques for catching cobias.
Yeah.
Where are we going to start? What do we need
Well,
to
you know, a
have?
cobia is a great heavy-bodied sport fish. You know, he fights really hard. You know, he fights all the way from the bottom to the top if you catch him in deep water, kind of like a tuna. And they're excellent eating, so we really want to catch them when we hook them. So, you know, we're going to probably use a nice braided line like that Berkley Pro Spec Chrome there, 30 to 50 pound braid. It's an 8 carrier braid, so it really casts a long way, and you're going to want to do that if they're up on the surface. You don't want to get too close to them and spook them off. If they're down deep, it also fights the current a lot better than traditional monofilament. And you want to use, you know, a nice 40 to 50 pound fluorocarbon leader, you know, between the braid and your jig and your live bait or whatever you're using.
How long you like the leader, Dave?
At least 3 feet, sometimes 4 to 6 feet. You know, I tend to use longer ones in case I have to cut them off during the day, so I don't have to keep retying. The longer the leader is, you know, I can just chop off little bits.
FG knot with the fluorocarbon?
That's what I use as an F&G knot, correct.
And then what kind of rod do you like? A long rod, short rod?
I like you know, again, it depends on the fish that you're targeting. If you're targeting bigger members of this species, you're going to want something like this, you know, a heavy, you know, heavier action a rod and reel. That's the Penn 7 medium action with a Carnage 3 rod. It's a 7500. It's 6500, and it's got a IP. It's water. It's sealed, so you don't have to worry about it getting wet. It's got a nice gimbal on there because you're fighting these bigger fish. You can wear a belt, and it helps you out immensely and lets you land the fish quicker, which is better for you and the fish because you get them in the boat quicker. It's got a really nice heavy drag and a strong backbone.
Spin fisher.
Yeah, the Penn spin fisher, correct.
All right, so let's talk about the rig.
Well, you know, a bucktail jig is mostly what you're going to be throwing at these fish. You know, that's the Berkley bucktail with a bait keeper design on it. It's got super strong fusion hooks on there.
Right.
It's got 2 different pull points. You can pull it from up the top or right at the nose. And it really pairs well with a nice big gulp saltwater grub. You know, that thing lays out a nice scent trail behind it, and when the fish gets up there and puts his nose in it, it's an extra incentive for him to eat that jig. So that's a really good.
I got one little thing I'd like to add. You guys, look at how Dave rigged this. Very, very critical when you're using a curly-tailed grub.
Yeah.
Remember, this grub is going to sink like so, head first because of the lead head.
Right.
If you rig this to where the curl is up, guess what? You don't get the same flow of water growing across, and it doesn't wiggle quite the same.
Correct.
So,
and not only that, if it's curled up here, it's another thing between the hook and the fish.
That's correct.
Yeah, so I'd much rather have it hanging down at the bottom.
Yes, sir.
Also, you can use a live bait, a live eel. This is actually the Savage Gear Real Eel Jig. That's an 8-inch. It's got a really lifelike action. That thing really spins. It's like 1 1/3 ounce. So you can throw that a good ways. Heavy duty jig hook in there and the treble on the bottom. So just really authentic details. It's like a 3D scan of a real eel and whatnot.
Right.
So, and it's infused with scent too. So
that's right.
Yeah. But you know, if you're going to be using a live, like Tommy was saying, using a live eel, you can put it on a bucktail.
Yeah.
You know, you just hook him under his chin, or a big, nice, heavy, you know, double heavy live bait hook like the Trocar TK9, I think it is, and it works really great. And you can use, you know, the thing about a cobia is it's always good. It's like when I go surf fishing, I like to have a sand flea, clams, and a crab. Well, when I'm fishing for cobia, I like to have a mullet, an eel.
Yeah,
a squid.
A smorgasbord.
Yeah, because you never know what they're going to turn their nose up to, you know. And these are the kind of the big, colorful jigs that guys will use. And notice they're all pretty heavy. Some of them are lighter, but most of them are at least 3 ounces, some even more. And that's so that you can cast them a long way.
Right.
Because when these fish are cruising on the surface or cruising with a ray, you know, if you get up close to them and spook them off, you know, you're not going to get a shot at them.
Right.
So it's better to stand back as far as you can and make long casts to them. Also, like Tommy was saying, that's a great tip about putting a popping cork on so you're not hooking those rays.
Right.
Because you see a lot of rays that are festooned with jigs all in their, all over them. And that's not doing you any good, and it's not doing the ray any good because you're not catching any cobia if you're hooking the ray.
And the other thing is if you're using a traditional style popping cork, I learned this from Ralph Delf because we used to throw chuggers in Key West to cobia swimming on the surface.
Oh yeah, that's another.
He would say, throw it past him and reel it at him, chugging it, coming at him, and you'll get the bite every time.
There you go.
It was crazy. So you can use a popping cork as an attractor too.
Yeah. That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
How about that, Bree? That's some good business.
Yeah, some good tips over there, gentlemen. You didn't skip a beat.